Hello, it's good to see you again. I think I have two questions, but I think it's kind of changed listening to you. And in the introduction, you were talking about wanting something and getting it, but what about losing it? And so, last time I was here, you've used this analogy about our stuff is behind a door. And last time, I felt like it wasn't like a solid door, it was a screen door. Like I could see my stuff, it was there. But there was a screen in front of it, so I couldn't quite get it. And then sometime later, I got all that stuff, so like the screen disappeared. Like I fell in love and all these amazing things happened. And then they all went away. So now I don't know what the question is. I've kind of, sorry.
Here's the value of the improved analogy that we are using now. When we offered that apparently flawed analogy of the door, that things are lined up outside your door and it's just that you just have to open it and let them in. And then you tinkered with our analogy and turned it into a screen door, but that's all. The idea of the door, so the door opens or closes, or I can see it. In other words, I opened the door and I let it in, but I should have nailed the door shut because stuff got out. And so the improved analogy of this vortex is that as you contribute things to this vortex, it keeps spinning. It's sort of like, you know how the Earth stays in its orbit in perfect proximity to other planets? That's about law of attraction too. And so that vortex that's spinning to the center, in other words, that vortex that's spinning and bringing all things necessary for it. In other words, nothing is getting away. Nothing is getting away. Nothing is getting away. Your stuff isn't getting out the back door. It is that here's who you are, who you really are, the expanded version of you. Here it is spinning, spinning, spinning steadily, and you will add to it, but you will not ever be able to take from it because there's no regression. There's only expansion. There's only becoming. So the only thing that we need to talk about here is your relationship with who you are. And sometimes you're a better match to it and sometimes not so good. That's all. In other words, it's you moving in and out of the vortex. It's not your stuff going away. Your stuff is still there. It's you. And you have control over what you do with you. Much better analogy. Mm-hmm. Tell us you like it.
Pardon me. I do. And I guess, how do you...
So now we've established a less flawed premise. In other words, this analogy of this vortex is solid. And now you're thinking about the only thing that you can think about, the only thing that you can do anything about is your vibrational relationship with it. So now you can tune yourself up. What can you say? What can you say that brings yourself into alignment with what's going on in here? What's in there anyway? Certainly not the absence of what you want. You see, we know what you're getting at. Jerry and Esther had a very catalytic step one, filling their escrow full of stuff experience while they were having their bus worked on last month while they were on the cruise. Same old story. Esther keeps telling the same old story, and we keep telling her same old story, and that millions of people hear the same old story. And Esther begged us. She begged us not to tell this story. And therefore we must. When you are looking at the evidence of something that you clearly do not want, it is such an interesting experience to hear someone say, you have to ignore the reality and look forward into your escrow, because the reality of what's happening gets your attention. And even at first, we see you, we saw her, you can hang in there tough for a while, and you can keep thinking about what you want, but after a while, the evidence of unwanted things weighs you down and gets your attention, and when it gets your attention, what happens is always the same thing that always happens. You lose your proximity to who you really are and what you want. There's just no getting around that. Esther was so frustrated. They left the bus and they were out of the bus for a long time, which is hard for them. And when they went back, same story, they hadn't really been working on it. And so now they don't have time to really deal with everything. And then worst of all, once they deliver it to them, Jerry and Esther don't have a chance to really check it out. And then over the next days, the unfolding of unfinished important things reveals itself, and Esther is in her I told you so mode, and Jerry is saying, well, of course it's going to be the way you've told it to be. And now Esther is mad at Jerry because she thinks that he is the attractor of some of this bus experience too, and he wants to give her all the credit for everything that goes wrong and none of the credit for, well, he's even-handed about credit, but the bus, she gets all the credit for what goes wrong with it. So now they've sort of had their altercation, and Esther is trying to explain to the service manager that they've left this to the last minute and now they really have to go. And we won't tell you the details of it unless we are inspired later on. But what we want Esther to now understand, in light of what we were talking about earlier, and in light of this too, is that with all of that confounding, uncomfortable, unjust, unfair mistreatment, pay this much for a bus, it ought to be right. When all of that's going on, she is launching huge rockets of desires again into her vibrational escrow that she cannot live, because the reality of what is has her undivided attention, and the new reality that all of these realities have helped her create, she does not have vibrational access to, because she's so caught up in the reality that she's living. She's hung up on the rightness or the truth or the evidence of what is, as if it means anything. And we want Esther and you to understand whatever is the bouncing off place. That's why we want you to embrace it as the contrast that fixes this, that puts more in this. As a result of this gathering today, we would love it if we could get all of your attention off of this and upon this. If you could put your undivided attention into the reality that is this vibrational escrow and stop harping upon what is, because what is doesn't matter. What is the basis that is causing you to create this, but this is where it's at. This vortex, this future, this improvement, this becoming, this better lover than before, this better experience than before, this better manufacturer of a bus, this better maintainer of a bus, this better contraption, this better life experience, this better physical experience, this better bodily conditions, this better relationship, this better working environment, this better economic condition, this better idea, this better clarity, this better security, this better, it's better, and it's yours, and you create it. Why are you messing around with what is? It's because what is wears you down. It's that same old, I've been beating the drum of it, and here it is. Here is this experience which I don't want staring me in the face again. And my not wanting it is so vivid that I forget that I could turn and look at what I do want. We want you to become obsessed with what's in your escrow. Obsessed with it, which means we want you to define it, explain it, pretend it, use it as a reason to feel good, add to it mentally, write about it, think about it, talk about it, try to get inside of it emotionally, use it as the basis to feel. That's the way you want to use your escrow. You see, you can use reality as a basis to feel bad or a basis to feel good. You can use your past as a basis to feel bad or a basis to feel good. But do you know what? Your vortex, your vibrational escrow, you can only use that as a basis to feel good, unless you're talking about the absence of it. You see, only what you want is there. So when you turn your undivided attention to the beauty of what's there, can you imagine, as good as you thought that relationship was going to be, can you imagine the one you got queued up now? And what's different? What do you think is primarily different about this new one queued up and that one that got out of that faulty screen door? What's the difference? What's the difference? This one doesn't want to leave. And why? Because that experience put that there big time.